In the peaceful town of Ape, Lagos, Mr. Salami was known for his tireless work ethic. He had a simple, happy life with his first wife, Amina, who was a kind-hearted woman. They were not very rich, and their home was modest, but it was filled with laughter and love. They had a son, Jamil, a bright boy who grew up with a deep respect for his father. Life was good, there was peace in their home, and Mr. Salami worked hard to provide for them. But everything changed when Mr. Salami met Irene. It happened one warm afternoon when he went to a local market to buy supplies for his business. There, standing in the crowd, was Irene. She was striking, with a presence that turned heads. Mr. Salami couldn't help but notice her beauty and charm. At first, their conversations were casual, but something about Irene's grace pulled Mr. Salami in. Over time, the bond between them grew stronger, and what started as an innocent connection turned into an undeniable attraction. His heart began to wander, and soon, the unthinkable happened. He asked Amina to leave their home so he could marry Irene. Amina was devastated. She never saw it coming. She had always been a loyal wife, dedicated to her family. But the man she loved had made a choice. The pain in her eyes was clear as she packed her bags, knowing that her place in the home had been replaced. But Amina loved her son deeply, and despite the heartbreak, she chose to leave Jamil in his father's care. "He needs you more than ever," she said quietly, her voice heavy with sorrow. With a broken heart, she left, and the house that was once filled with peace and laughter grew silent. Mr. Salami and Irene soon started a new life together, and before long, they had 5 children of their own. The household was filled with noise and activity, but despite the new additions to the family, there was an underlying tension that no one dared address. Irene, despite her outward beauty and charm, began to feel increasingly lonely. The absence of Amina, the constant reminder of her role as a mother, and her isolation from a husband who was often away on business left her feeling lost. She yearned for companionship and affection, and one day, in a moment of weakness, she found herself turning to Jamil. It all began one evening when Mr. Salami had left for a business trip. Irene, feeling the weight of her loneliness, approached Jamil in the living room. At that moment, he was no longer the boy she once knew. He had grown into a young man, thoughtful and handsome. They talked, at first, about everyday matters, but the conversation soon shifted. Irene's eyes lingered on Jamil, and something in the air shifted between them. What started as innocent comfort became something more, a secret that neither could acknowledge. As days turned into months, the affair continued in secrecy. Both of them knew it was wrong, but they couldn't stop. It was an unspoken bond, hidden behind closed doors. They managed to keep their secret from the rest of the household, but the guilt began to gnaw at Jamil. He felt torn between his loyalty to his father and his complicity in the deception. Years passed, and the affair remained a hidden chapter in their lives. But one day, Irene's anxiety grew. She feared their secret would be exposed. She could see the changes in Jamil, his discomfort, his guilt. In a moment of panic, she confronted him. "You cannot tell anyone about this," Irene warned, her voice sharp. "If you do, everything will fall apart. Do you want that?" The intensity in her eyes was enough to freeze Jamil in place. He felt trapped, caught in a web of lies and deceit, with no way out. Irene's threat was clear: silence or ruin. The burden of the secret grew heavier by the day. Jamil could no longer carry the weight of his actions. His conscience ate at him. After days of struggling with himself, he made a life-changing decision. He would tell his father the truth. With his heart pounding in his chest, Jamil approached his father. He found him sitting in the living room, reviewing papers from a recent business trip. "Papa," Jamil began, his voice shaking, "I have something to tell you." The room seemed to freeze. Slowly, He told his father everything: the affair, the lies, the guilt. Mr. Salami's face went pale, disbelief written all over his features. It felt like the earth had cracked open beneath him. Devastated, Mr. Salami needed answers. He turned to the village oracle, hoping for clarity. He knew he couldn't fix things on his own. The oracle, wise and mysterious, led Mr. Salami through a series of rituals, burning incense, offering sacrifices, and chanting ancient prayers. After hours of intense spiritual guidance, the oracle gave a chilling warning. "The consequences of your actions will be dire," the oracle said, his voice echoing through the air. "The boy will lose his way. Your family will break apart." The weight of the truth took its toll on Jamil. Overwhelmed by guilt, he began to unravel mentally. He couldn't cope with the shame. He wandered the streets of Lagos, lost in his own mind, talking to himself and barely recognizing the world around him. The vibrant young man he once was had been consumed by the chaos of his own life. He was a shadow of his former self, drifting aimlessly, unable to escape the consequences of his actions. Mr. Salami's heart was broken, and the family was shattered. The time had come for Irene to leave. He couldn't allow her to stay, the damage she had caused was too great. With a heavy heart, Mr. Salami told her it was over. She could never return to their home. Irene, once the woman who had captivated him, was now a distant memory. The life she had once imagined with Mr. Salami was gone, and there was no going back. After Irene's departure, Mr. Salami focused on the children he had left. He worked hard to support them, especially Jamil, though the boy's mind was broken. He tried his best to heal the wounds that had torn their family apart. The road was long and difficult, but Mr. Salami refused to give up. He hoped that, in time, they could rebuild what had been lost. Though the past was filled with pain, he still held on to hope for a better future.